Hello, Paolo Synthmania, September 6, 2020, and this is Synth Walk number 6. Question from Nicholas Lindholm. How much time and money do you have to spend on maintenance to keep all your old synths in working condition? If you're not prepared to spend quite a bit of money, don't get into vintage analog synths. Yeah, it can be a little expensive, but it's nothing unmanageable. And especially if you can fix some minor repair by yourself, like keys, contacts, and pretty much when a synth is running well, if you use it in the studio, it's not a big deal. It will last. Question from Kiko1. Are you familiar with the concept of DAWless? Yes, it's not a very difficult concept to grasp. And if so, do you think making music without a DAW can provide favorable results than working with one, or is that all hogwash? It's all hogwash. Keep in mind, when I was growing up, there was no DAWs. The first DAW, I think it was when Pro Tools started unifying media and audio tracks on the same piece of software, and that was already the early 90s to mid 90s. So in the 80s, you were DAWless and didn't stop anyone from making music. So it really doesn't matter. If you use a DAW, don't want to use a DAW, it's your music that counts. You have to learn how to play music, which unfortunately many people today don't want to do or don't want to spend the time, which is sad. Learn how to play an instrument. Andrew Yori. What are your opinions on the dungeon synth genre music? It is dark synth music using primarily instruments and tones associated with the medieval music. Harps, harpsichords, cathedral organs, brass, etc. One of the best examples would be the Mortis album called, sorry, I don't speak Norwegian, Fedel til Herske. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this genre, but if it's got sense, and I like medieval music too, so I'm sure it's good. I'll check it out. Neo Te Aikaka. The first Halo is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Not everyone plays video games, but is there a game soundtrack that you admire? Cheers from New Zealand, Neo. I'm not a gamer. And really the games that I used to play are from the late 70s, early 80s, such as Space Invaders, Frogger. Space Invaders had a great soundtrack. Pure 8-bit monophonic square waves. Dun 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 dun. Probably copy from the shark movie, the Jaws. Great soundtrack, I recommend it. If for mom, when I bought a PC in the mid 90s, it came with a game called Myst, spelled MYST. That had a really cool soundtrack. Ryan Sheridan. Hey Paolo, did you like early Italo disco groups like Firefly and Change, the latter of which partly used American funk musicians in the studio? Any similar bands you could recommend? Thanks. Yes, I love Change. I love that period of music, late 70s, early 80s. I think a great way to find out about similar bands, if you search for that band on YouTube, it will suggest similar videos for you to discover. All right, the mosquitoes are absolutely destroying me. There's something today. All right, guys, I've been working for a solid half an hour, 40 minutes, but the mosquitoes are out for war today, so I might cut this short because they're killing me. Another question from Beoni Samp. Exactly. Thanks for all the synth production tips. Been watching your channel for a few years and have learned many behind the scenes techniques from you. I'm a big fan of Dare, Love and Dancing, the early Human League, right? Human League, not HL. Remix album with amazing techniques, pioneer on those albums by producer Martin Rushent, RIP. Do you have any favorite techniques of his which you have adapted to your music studio? I know also from photos of his studio setup, he too was a big fan of patch bass and long FX chains. Cheers, B. Yes, love, of course. Love Dare, Human League, and Martin Rushent. One of the characteristic things about Martin Rushent was the use of the Roland MC8 sequencer. Impossible to find these days, but it gave a very characteristic beat timing to those recordings. Just fantastic machine if you can find one, or the MC4. And also a lot of gating, the synthesizers. I have a video about that, and pretty much the standard techniques of the era, late 70s, early 80s. Graphic. I would love to talk to you. I would love you to talk about the influence of Bobby O. Orlando on Italian music. Love Bobby Orlando. Actually, I think it's maybe the opposite. The influence of Italian music on Bobby Orlando, who is Italian, by the way. Orlando is a typical Sicilian name, so it's very probably his family was from there. And yeah, great, fantastic composer. Did a lot of great things. I like the 1, 2, 3 Runaway, a bunch of other stuff. It was very popular in Italy at the time. And again, he used a lot of sequencers and actually arpeggiators. He used the arpeggiators and then play them in time. So you set up the arpeggiator and play the chords with your left hand. Probably with his right hand was playing the chords, drum machines. So definitely a great composer. But back then there was a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Synergy. Basically, many composers from different genres and regions used to copy each other, and not copy, but be influenced by each other. So definitely, Italo Disco owns a lot to the American disco music of the 70s, but we gave it our own spin. Good Boyd, aren't you tempted to try out modern groove boxes and drum machines like the Tanzbar 2, Akai Force, Electron, Analog Rhythm Mark II, etc.? Sure, yeah, I'm tempted, but I'm also tempted to buy other stuff before I buy those. Adrian Wilson, Paolo, what synth is next on your to-buy list? Probably the Jupiter 4. Thomas Sins, are you big into sound design, both in musical and non-musical applications? Yeah, I used to be into sound design a little bit, but the problem is the time. I have a full-time job, wife, 3 kids, and the time it takes a long time to sit down and come up with your own sound design. So I'd rather do music instead. Mayhew Music, when did hardware synthesizers first start providing realistic imitations of piano and brass? Well, brass, it was pretty easy to imitate with basically a sawtooth and the filter. So if you go back to the 60s with the Moog modular, you could already recreate a fairly realistic brass section. If you're talking about more like a really realistic, I will look at the Yamaha VL series of the 90s, maybe early 2000s, 90s. And for the piano is really difficult to emulate with analog gear. So I would say maybe, the DX7 already for those times had a good piano sound. And of course there were samplers. And I would say maybe when the Roland came out with RD technology, the SA synthesis, you had a really sick piano. Eric Paquim, not much of a question, just a big shout out. Thank you for all your dedication to the worlds of synth. Well, thank you. I have used your website numerous times to preview stuff, notably the Roland JV2080, which I now own, and SR-JV80 expansions, which I soon have 4. Use your sound demos and comments help paint a solid picture of what I'd be buying, while other info or resources are scarce. If I need to shoehorn in a question, it would be the following. Do you have a favorite expansion card from the JV series? In case you're curious, I currently have 2 orchestral, 11 techno, and 10 bass and drums. 12 hip-hop are in the mail as I write this. All those cards, expansion boards are great. They're really good, and for being 30 years old, especially, well, 25. And I think the one I liked the most was the vocal expansion card. Very, very, very good. Sonic Rocket, I don't think this was ever as Sawyer goes. Is there any other synth who has similar string pads as the K-2000? I don't own one, but all the vids I saw of it always showed fantastic and unique strings. Yes, the K-2000, great board. It used to be part of my bread and butter setup in the 90s. I had the K-2000, the JV2080, and the Yamaha EXR5. I still have the Yamaha. I sold the other 2, but I have a Kurzweil rack and a 1080. And so yes, those strings are quite unique, and the filters are fantastic. And I guess you have to buy a K2000. I mean, you can buy them for really inexpensive amounts today, maybe $200-300 to buy a K2000 rack. If not, look at the similar products of the era, like a Kawai or Korg propositions of early 90s, and you got that sound. Jim Scott's Fun Stuff and Musical Compositions. In the 1980s, Ian Hammer uses all kinds of things like Fairlight CMI and Jupiter 8. Does it remind you of NBC's Miami Vice? So are you asking if the guy who wrote the theme for Miami Vice sounds like Miami Vice? Psychedelic Kool-Aid. Hey there, Mr. Synthmania. So my question is that currently I'm trying to make some authentic sounding early to mid 80s high energy music. And I'd just like to know which types of synths and drum machines would be the best to use to make it sound more legit. If you want to sound early to mid 80s, you have to buy early to mid 80s synths, or synths that have produced in the early to mid 80s. Peter UTRBLK, hello Paolo. I was also grown up in the dark 80s, and I really appreciate your bass playing and sound creating. It would be very nice to see more videos about techniques and sound design of that music style. Thanks for all your inspiring and professional advices. Well, thank you. Best wishes from Dusseldorf. Yes, definitely. I'm going to make more dark music soon. I got that Hookie Pro 6-string bass from Eastwood, and I'm dying to try it in a song. So yeah, stay tuned. Savoy 1984 question. Do you like Alan Howarth? Yeah. He's the guy who worked with Carpenter, right? So yeah, he did a lot of great work and soundtracks. The one I like a lot was Escape from New York. Great synths. I think they use a lot of Prophet 5 in those soundtracks. Davnar Ragnar, love your stuff. If you have time, could you consider the following? What are your thoughts on the JP8080 versus the Nova Supernova or Supernova 2 for ambient and experimental music? I'm about to pull the trigger. It will be a rack mount in my case. Also have a great weekend and stay safe. Thank you, you too. All those synths are going to be great for ambient and experimental music. Be careful, experimental music a lot of time means sucks. So yeah, any one of those will work. Plenty of sound design capabilities. Polite Filters. Hello, Paolo. Thank you for freaking mosquitoes. Polite Filters. Hello, Paolo. Thank you for turning me, and I'm sure many others, onto the incredible genre of Italo disco. I've recently been learning more about Italo, and I've noticed that one of the main themes that comes up again and again is a reverence for the country of Japan. Do you have a theory as to why so many Italo songs seem to be dedicated to the country and culture, our neighbors to the east? Well, yeah, there was... when I was growing up in the 70s as a child, I was born in 69, so the late 70s, mid-70s, late 70s, Japanese culture was prevalent in Italy through the form of cartoons. Everybody in my generation grew up with cartoons, Japanese cartoons, such as Goldrake, Mazinga Z, Titan 3, a lot more, and also shows, and so maybe that's why. Not too sure. Claudio Stano. Hello, Paolo. At what time did you start using a PC-based sequencer, if ever? And which was your first DAW? I'm not a keyboard player, and using a DAW sequencer is the only way I can produce a song. What do you think about using something like Cubase versus being DAWless nowadays? Second question on DAWless. Yeah, my first, it wasn't really a DAW, because by DAW, it's meant a box that can do everything, a digital audio workstation. So you will have MIDI, audio, and effects, and everything you need to prepare a song in the same software. So not a DAW per se, but the first sequencer that I used was Cubase in the early 90s. Actually, it was MIDI only, and everybody was using Cubase. Actually, the first one that I used was Finale, which was really like a notation software with some capabilities. But yeah, then I use all types of DAWs today, pretty much all of them. My main one right now is Cubase, but I also use Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton Live, Propeller Head, Reason, Studio One, and a few more. Klinsky, let's say you have 4,000 to burn and want just one more. Yeah, right, lol. Drum computer, TR-909 or LinnDrum, and why? Well, very, very easy. If you're doing house and techno, you want to get the TR-909. If you're doing synth pop, you want to get the LinnDrum. Selfish sound system. What is superior today? What is superior? The TB303, SH101, or the MC202? Happy 3-day weekend. Thank you, you too. They're all pretty similar. I mean, the SH101 and the MC202 are almost the same. And if you want to get that acid squelch, you want to get the TB303, but of course the SH101 is going to be a little more versatile, and so is MC202. And it will do. Sarge Tech. Hey, Paolo, do you create your own original synth patches? I do. Composers like Klaus Schultz, Steve Roach, Robert Rich, and Jean-Michel Jarre. I love those types of tones mixed with ethnic percussion. Thanks, you're such an inspiration. Oh, thank you so much. You're way too kind. Yeah, I used to write my own patches a lot when I was younger. You know, now again with a full-time job, wife and 3 kids. Time is always the problem, right? But yeah, I do patches. If you look at the AK Multimedia Uno synth, if you download the latest software editor, you have a bank of 80 patches that I've done for that. But I do my own patches, of course, but I use them for my music. I don't sell them or anything like that. Firebrand, what do you think of the Behringer RD-8 compared to the original and their clones in general? I tried the RD-8, sounds very, very close. Yeah, so if you don't have the money to buy the real one, go for it. Evan Surmai, hey Paolo, love your videos. Are you into experimental esoteric music at all? I've been listening to Smackos, aka Danny Wolfers, otherwise known as Legowelt, from the Netherlands, and it's totally blowing my mind. I think you really did his sync collection in addition to his music. Cheers. Yeah, yeah, great musician. I've seen his videos. Yeah, great music and also great collection as well. Alright guys, I'm back in the studio because I finished the walk and those mosquitoes were having a buffet out of me, so Figure I'll finish the last couple of pages in the studio. Jesus Orozco. Hi Paolo, greetings from California. What's your opinion on the Roland boutique version of the Juno JU-06a? It seems to be a somewhat controversial machine among synth heads on the internet. Rule number one, do not listen to anything you read on the internet, because most people don't know what they're talking about. Use your ears. Use your ears, and always choose with your own ears in mind and thoughts. Some people seem to hate it while others love it. Would you recommend sticking with a VST emulation such as the Roland Cloud version instead? I'm curious to hear your take on it, considering that you own both the 60 and 106. Have a great walk and a relaxing weekend. Thank you, you too. Yeah, it's very close. All the boutique versions are very close to the original machines. And so yeah, some people are always naysayers, always negative. People, you want to stay away from those people. Basically, if you like it, buy. If you're not, don't. It's just as simple as that. And besides, in a mix, nobody will hear the difference. And as everybody knows, the product is what counts, not the gear you use. Dry 786 driver. Hi Paolo, always great to see your video. Thank you. I wonder if you have ever tried Erica Synth System Fusion or Drone. If so, please share your thoughts about these modular systems. Also, it would be great to see more stuff with JP8000. The great. Thank you for the inspiration and Italian spirit you share with us. Thank you. I don't think I've tried the Fusion. I've tried the Erica Synth modules. They're very good sounding, really good sounding, really good gear. But I'm not a huge Euro rack system. I have a small rack, so I would need to have it in the studio to try it deeply. But yeah, they sound good. And JP8000, definitely more videos with the JP8000 coming. John Gira, do you have a preference to use analog or digital drum machines? Well, my favorite drum machine is the TR-909, which is both analog and digital. Matt Livingston, favorite soft synth. I'm not a huge soft synth user. I do have a few. The one I really like these days lately is from Steinberg, the Pad Shop VST, really good set, and also Retrolog. And also I really like the soft synths from Native Instruments. Pretty much all of them do a great job of creating different sounds for different applications. So the complete series is just phenomenal. John Richardson, Synthmania discuss how hard it is to replicate sound of a D50 patch. Well, in the year 2020 is not really difficult. In 1987 it was, because not too many people had the ability to manipulate audio with computers. DAWs weren't really around yet, so only the manufacturers or people really into it had those. And basically today anybody can do that. All you need to sample a few milliseconds of an acoustic source, such as trumpet or an organ or a piano, just a few milliseconds, and in your DAW, combine it in your DAW sampler, combine it with an analog waveform, and ta-da, you have LA synthesis, and add effects, reverb, delay. Russ8889, do you already own your Dream synth, or is there a synth that you would still love to own? And would you sell any of your synths you already own to buy? Well, if I can dream, anybody can dream, but a Yamaha GX1 would be nice. FJ Francois, hi, what are your main bands that you can say that inspired you to make music today? Too many to list. I am 51 years old, so I have had a lot of years and a lot of influences over the years. And I would say my main two influences are film composers, Ennio Morricone and John Barry. But of course, a lot of synth pop and Italo disco from the 80s, a lot of techno and house from the 90s. I pretty much like a lot of genres of music. Johnny Webb, love your channel, thank you. Did Den Harrow music use sequencers. Of course, everybody used sequencers. If not sequencers, arpeggiators used in a matter of sequencer. But yeah, by then they already had MIDI sequencers in the studio. So yeah, of course. Mr. Taylor, what's the one song you wish you had wrote? Yeah, too many to list again. You know, there is one song that I was re-listening to it today, and I think it's a fantastic song, great song. I wish I had written it, and it's by a gentleman called Chrome Sparks, and the song is All There Is, featuring Stefalou or something like that. Is All There Is. I love that song. So if Chrome Sparks ever sees this, I love that song. Automatic. If you had to choose one modern polysynth to make retro vintage sounds, which modern synth would you use? There are many, and probably the new sequential circuit synths, like the Prophet 8, will cover your bases for sure. PDS, why no Jupiter 4? Because I don't have it yet, but it's on the to-buy list. Pizza Gogo. Hi Paolo, had a look at your previous question, so I hope I'm not repeating. You're lucky enough to have space for your extensive synth collection. If hypothetically things change and say you had to live in a small apartment for a while and could only take 5 synths with you, analog or digital, doesn't matter, what would be your 5 essentials and why? Thank you for your awesome content. Well, thank you. Oof. Yeah, I like all synths. If I had to pick 5 out of my collection here, for sure, you know, I will grab the Jupiter 8, the Prophet 5, the Oberheimer OBXA. I will get the PPG, and another one, maybe the Korg Trident. My favorite type of synthesizers is analog synthesizers from the late 70s to the mid 80s. Timothy Dahlin, can you cover your samplers and the features they have and show some of the workflow trick one can employ when using them? Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna feature samplers a lot more. I love samplers. I grew up with them, and late 80s, early 90s, really. And so yeah, I'll stay tuned. I'll make more videos with samplers. Maybe tonight I'll do the W30. Is my favorite sampler, but I also have all kinds of them. Sven V. Hi Paolo, can you explain how to back up data patterns on the Roland TR-505? I tried recording the tape out signal from the save feature, but I get errors when trying to verify. Since it has MIDI, can I just save the patterns in the way with SysX data via MIDI? I'm not sure if the TR-505 allows you to use SysX to save patterns. You might have to use, I have to look it up. You might have to use the tape feature, but it's normal to get errors. You just have to have the really good patience and tweak the volume of output and input of the connections, and you at some point you will get it. Derek Baker. Hi Paolo, hope all is good with you and your family plus your relatives in Italy. Well, thank you. Here's my question. If you had a gig with a band that specializes in new wave, synth pop, and similar music from the late 70s to the late 80s, Euro from the UK, from North America, and from Australia and New Zealand, what 3 relatively affordable synths would you bring that could authentically cover your set lists? Note that 3 synths can be modern vintage and cost a few thousand each, but no hyper rare, hyper expensive ones. No Jupiter 8, OBXA, PPG, Prophet 5, Synclavier, etc. allowed, lol. Well, there are a lot of good synths on the market today that allow you to do that. If you want to pick a few of them, you know, I would definitely look at the Moog offerings of today for bass and leads, sequential circuits for the polys, but you know, also Roland Jupiter X has Jupiter sounds. Korg has a bunch of emulations of analog boards. So 3 relatively affordable. I'll pick, yeah, I would go with sequential, Prophet 6, Prophet 8, and a Moog, maybe Grandmother or Matriarch, And also pick a sampler or maybe a drum machine with samples such as a Roland TR-8S. That should cover all the bases. John Tamato. Hi Paolo, I was looking at the Behringer K-2, but I'm a little off-put by the hertz per volt rather than the volt per octave, which is pretty much the standard. Now, do you have any thoughts or advice you can share, please? You can also consider the the Korg MS-20 if it's not that much more expensive, and you can also get it used. Jefferson Steel Flex. Hi Paolo, I'm still relatively new to the world of music making. Only started around 2.5 years ago, and the entire time I've only used VSTs. Over the years, I've heard people talk time and time again about the creative benefits of using hardware over software. Don't listen to people. I use Falcon and Complete, so sound-wise I'm covered, but is it still worth it to dive into the world of hardware, even if I have really good software solutions? Really, the best advice that I can give to you is to, since you've only been playing for 2.5 years, you're probably not that great yet, meaning you cannot express yourself to the fullest. My sincere advice to you is to learn how to play an instrument really well. Put in the 10,000 hours, the famous 10,000 hours. That way you can express yourself and produce good music that resonates with other people. The gear is really not that important, so it doesn't really matter if you use hardware or software. Hardware has the advantage that it's right there. You don't need to open the computer, you need to mess with patches or updates or anything. But today, in the year 2020, the two subsystems that you have are stellar, both of them. So, totally up to you. Destroyer 82, any updates on the Synclavier? Still hyped to see it in action. Enjoy your walk and all the best. Yes, I've been lazy with the Synclavier. I actually need just a couple of cables to get it started, and I haven't sourced them yet. I've been lazy with that project, so I'll try to get those cables, and I got the computer ready, I got the card. I need to source those cables, and I'll get on it. KV5, were you ever into gaming, old computers, Commodore 64, etc.? If so, did you use these classic computers within your music? Now, I'm not much of a gamer. Back in the 80s, my friends, a couple of my friends had the Commodore 64, so I used to go to their house and play with this Commodore 64. But the first computer I got was later on, like the late 80s or early 90s, like the 386. I do know that some people like that 8-bit music. Yeah. Okay, guys, have a great day. Bye.